The big banks are being put on notice to pass on the Reserve Bank's interest rate cut in full or give a full explanation to customers. The government has hardened its line in the last 24 hours and it's getting support from Labor. Live to Parliament House in Canberra now, and political reporter Patel joins us. Good evening to you, Now, yesterday the Treasurer called for people not to join a merry-go-round of opportunistic responses to the banks. What has the government been saying today?
Well, the government, of course, can't compel the major banks or any bank to pass on that interest rate cut in full. They can't even compel them by law to explain why they have not. Now, the Reserve Bank, of course, cut interest rates to the historic low of 1.5%, a 25 basis point cut yesterday, but none of the four major banks passed that on in full. Today, the Prime Minister was unequivocal in urging, though, the banks to pass this on. Have a listen.
The government does not run the banks. We don't own those banks. We don't manage their affairs. That's up to them. But if they are not prepared to pass on the full extent of the rate cut, they owe the Australian people a full explanation. They have got to, given the social licence under which they operate, they should explain fully and clearly why they have not passed on the full extent of the rate cut, which I believe, and I believe the overwhelming majority of Australians believe, they should have done.
That is not for the government to do, it's for the banks to do, because they have made those decisions in their commercial interests. And in the interest of transparency, it really does fall to them to do that in the most transparent and efficient way possible.
If the banks are choosing to take the interest rate cut by the Reserve Bank and use it to prop up margins, they need to be very clear and upfront about that.
Now to next week's census. There's been an increase in complaints in relation to the questionnaire. How is the government responding to that?
Well, there's two main concerns here. One is the ability of people to actually even fill out this census form, and secondly is privacy concerns. Now, the government says that they expect 2/3 of Australians to fill out this form online, but if they don't want to fill it out online, they have the option of going to a hotline and calling up a number and requesting an actual paper form. Now, the issue is that a lot of Australians have not been able to get through to that hotline and therefore haven't been able to get a form. Now, Independent Senator Nick Xenophon met with the Treasurer today and did allay these concerns to him, and has called on the government to delay the census from next Tuesday as a result. But the government says that the Treasurer has tried to play down these worries, pointing out that people will have until September 23 to fill out this form online, and if they don't, well, it's just a possibility that they may face this fine of a possible $180 per day. Now, on the privacy issue, for the first time, the census will be collecting names and addresses of people and keeping those names and addresses for 4 years instead of what was before, which was 18 months. Now, the first people to complain about this were privacy groups, but Senator Nick Xenophon also raised this today with the Treasurer and has called on the government to make sure that the ABS keeps this information themselves rather than outsourcing it to a private company. Now, the Prime Minister has since come out at about midday today and said that the ABS has an unblemished record and that they will collect this information and protect this information. The Treasurer has come out and said similar remarks. Have a listen to what the Minister responsible, Michael McCormack, the Minister for Small Business, had to say.
The ABS has a history of conducting the census for more than 100 years and has an unblemished record on privacy, an unblemished record. Names, addresses and data are all stored in separate systems and are protected in accordance with the Australian Government's Protective Security Policy Framework and the Information Security Manual. It is important to also mention that ABS staff members cannot access both data sets at the same time.
And so the Minister has also pointed out that the focus on online is more environmentally friendly and does cut down on time. So the government here is defending what will happen on next Tuesday, census night. So we'll see how many Australians actually do manage to fill out the form that night or by September 23.
That's Patel reporting live from Canberra.